From 2010 to 2016, Mike and Molly was one of America's favorite sitcoms. The show followed the exploits of a married couple who met while attending an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. As compared to previous marriage-based sitcoms like King of Queens, both of Mike and Molly's titular characters were equally overweight. The show lasted 6 seasons, but it could have lasted longer if it weren't for the popularity of one of its main stars. Join Facts First as we explore the reason why Mike and Molly got canceled. Was Mike and Molly canceled because of weight loss? When Mike and Molly came to an end in 2016, fans were devastated. Over 6 seasons, the cast of characters on the hit sitcom had become like secondary family members for much of the audience, and saying goodbye is never an easy thing. Thankfully, the show ended up having a fairly fan-pleasing series finale. For years, there have been varying theories about why the hit sitcom ended up being canceled by CBS. Though the show was never its biggest performer, it was a reliable staple with a surplus of die-hard fans. Still, it ended up being canceled. Around the time of the cancellation, there was an article that spread some false rumors about why it was ending. It claimed that Melissa McCarthy had recently started taking Garcinia supplements to lose weight for her role in the then upcoming female-led reboot of Ghostbusters. The article suggested Melissa started taking the supplements after being recommended them by a coworker on the set of Mike and Molly. The most baffling thing the article suggested was that the reason Mike and Molly was canceled was because of Melissa's subsequent weight loss. As would be revealed in the ensuing months, this wasn't the case, but it made good headlines. It appears the article that spread the false rumors was actually just a deceptive advertisement for Garcinia. According to McCarthy herself, she had never taken Garcinia and had never been recommended it by any of her coworkers. It seems the only part of the article that was remotely true was the fact that Melissa had indeed started to lose some weight in preparation for her Ghostbusters role, but her means for doing so were just carb control and calorie counting. Mike and Molly was a revolutionary sitcom. The rumor of Mike and Molly being canceled because Melissa McCarthy lost too much weight ended up having a surprising amount of traction. The weight of the titular characters was certainly a large part of the show's appeal. Mike and Molly was seen by many as a reaction to shows like King of Queens, which showcased an obese husband alongside a much more conventionally attractive wife. Mike and Molly showed that large people could find love together, and it would make sense if Melissa's weight loss was seen as detrimental to the show's image. But it appears Melissa's dieting played no part in the cancellation. Though Melissa losing weight to look better on the big screen wasn't the reason, the Ghostbusters reboot might have had something to do with the cancellation indirectly. When Mike and Molly first came on the air in 2010, Melissa McCarthy wasn't nearly as big of a star as she would become. Her breakout role on the big screen came via 2011's Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids was a comedy that made waves with its raunchy and female-centric humor. Though the movie starred SNL's Kristen Wiig, its breakout star was Melissa McCarthy. Melissa only played a supporting role, but did such a good job, she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at that year's Academy Awards. Given that comedies rarely ever get recognized by the Academy Awards, this was quite the feat. Melissa didn't take the award home, and it went to actress Octavia Spencer for her work in the hit drama The Help. Still, the attention she received from Bridesmaids turned Melissa into a movie star. She had, however, been working steadily in show business for over a decade beforehand. Before Mike and Molly, she was best known for portraying Sookie St. James on the dramedy Gilmore Girls. And today, she's considered one of the most prestigious stars in all of Hollywood. The real reason Mike and Molly was canceled. The cancellation of Mike and Molly was announced towards the end of 2015. The 6th and final season then premiered in January of 2016. The last season was shorter than any of the prior 5. Instead of 22 episodes, the season only had 13. As is typical with many sitcoms, the stars of Mike and Molly were only signed on for 6 seasons. In many cases, when a show is as popular as Mike and Molly, contracts with major players will be renegotiated so the series can continue. But in the case of Mike and Molly, renegotiation proved unfeasible. Given that McCarthy wasn't a huge star around the time Mike and Molly first went into production, the actress could be secured for a reasonable sum. And as she became more popular, the terms of her initial Mike and Molly contract stayed the same. But by the time the contract was up, Melissa was a much more valuable star. Renegotiating her contract would have eaten up the entirety of the show's budget. If Melissa had wanted to continue working on Mike and Molly, she arguably could have found a way to do it, but her increased value wasn't the only thing keeping her from wanting to return. After 6 seasons, Melissa also felt the time was right for her to take advantage of her recently found fame and start taking more roles on the big screen. Melissa still works in film today. As Mike and Molly aired its series finale in May of 2016, Melissa McCarthy fans could look forward to the release of Ghostbusters less than 2 months later. But the film wasn't as big of a hit as most people expected. The film didn't perform well enough to inspire any direct sequels, and the Ghostbusters series was instead rebooted a second time without involvement from Melissa McCarthy. But the film didn't have a negative impact on Melissa's film career. At the same time, the actress hasn't had any cinematic hits since the cancellation of Mike and Molly that have matched the ones that she had while the show was still on the air. In 2018, she appeared in the box office flop The Happy Time Murders. The cast was made up of partly humans and partly puppets. In the vein of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the story followed Melissa McCarthy teaming up with a puppet to solve a mystery. Many thought the poor reception of The Happy Time Murders was going to destroy her career for good, but thankfully this wasn't the case. That same year, Melissa appeared in a drama called Can You Forgive Me? This marked the first time Melissa had taken on a significant dramatic performance, and her work was widely praised. It resulted in her being nominated for a second Academy Award. She lost again, but the nomination was still a notable achievement. Mike and Molly had a fan-pleasing series finale. Mike and Molly's series finale wasn't all that original, but it certainly seems to have pleased the majority of fans. Over the course of the series, the two main characters often flirted with the concept of bringing a child into their household. In the final few episodes, the characters decided they're going to adopt. Much of the final episode is spent with Mike, Molly, their respective families, and the TV audience wondering whether or not the adoption agency will deem them ready to become parents. By the end of the show, Mike and Molly are given the news that they've been approved. And just as Mike and Molly are about to bring their adopted child into their world, it's revealed that Molly is actually pregnant with a biological child of her own. So this means Mike and Molly got 2 children by the end of the series. Those who are anxious to see more Melissa McCarthy can look forward to the release of 2023's The Little Mermaid. In the live-action Disney remake, Melissa will play the villainous Ursula. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know it was rumored Mike and Molly was canceled because of Melissa McCarthy's weight loss? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.